Hi everyone, Ronald Ingram here, your rebel banker futurist, broadcasting live on X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and more right now from the Nevada high desert, looking straight down on Luxor Pyramid. Perfect backdrop for what we're building. Today I'll update you on the San Francisco trip. I provided a bit of an update on Thursday as well. But for our European friends who are hopefully joining us from the other hemisphere of the world, welcome. And I'll recap some of the things that I covered on Thursday, as well as some new developments. So the San Francisco trip was a very select group. I was invited to attend by Solana. There's a very select group of developers from around the world, founders, Solana executives, and the energy was electric. There were many amazing things about this project. That I shared with people. And the machine to machine side, that was that's the buzz that everyone knows about, the X402 transactions, and that was really something that was top of mind for a lot of people. The Ingram evaluation matrix, providing explainable AI decisions, is a little bit more specialized, but I think that it was a real eye opener for some, and others got right away how important having explainable artificial intelligence decisions in high stakes, especially in high stakes areas like in banking, is absolutely critical, and expected by regulators and expected by everyone. So what the Ingram evaluation matrix does, again, it takes all of the intelligence of artificial intelligence and all the tools, all the latest data, all the systems, all that knowledge, and dumbs it down essentially for human consumption but to a degree that's explainable and still and scalable and relevant and material to important decisions that are made in banking every day, and relating to obviously loan underwriting for small and large loans, and loans of any type, commercial or personal. All loans need to go through an underwriting process, obviously, and that's a very important process. It's very easy to lend money, as they say in banking, but not so easy to get your money back if you don't make good loans. So the Ingram evaluation matrix is one quite revolutionary tool that provides a very simple but robust and scalable methodology for decision making in many arenas, but in particular, banking is where we're applying it. It's also applicable in healthcare. Actually, I didn't mention this before. So there were some folks innovating in unexpectedly that I met, that were working on artificial intelligence and in the application of in healthcare. So we actually had some robust discussions around that topic and around how the Ingram evaluation matrix can be used to help make decisions, personal decisions or professional decisions related to treatments and goals as well. Because in biohacking, I'm a biohacker, as you all know, and biohacking, unlike most medicine, which views every abnormal outcome, everything that is outside of the outside of the average, they automatically view it through the lens of pathology. oh, there must be something wrong, right? Biohacking, at least in the my flavor of biohacking and my protocol, the Ingram X Prize protocol, is more optimistic, and it looks at what is extraordinary about measurements and benchmarks. For example, my testosterone levels are exceedingly abnormally high, which is not something that doesn't even come out when I've reduced my biological age 25 years from the delta being measured from my worst to my best, which, and I'm about 3 months behind now in my testing. I've got my tests booked. I was supposed to get them done last week. My blood work, I've already got my DEXA test done. My blood work tests will come back next week, and we expect that we'll see further reductions in biological age markers. But as of the last measurement, it was over 25 years. So that's pretty extraordinary. And that doesn't even take into account markers that are really impactful on a man's health, on men's health, and but are not directly correlated to longevity. And by that, I mean testosterone. So high levels of testosterone are no indication of longevity, but they certainly enhance the quality of life, energy, vitality, and muscle strength, bone density, intellectual acuity, focus, confidence, so many different things. Not to mention the sex life aspect of it, right? But the high levels of testosterone they certainly make you feel younger. And I think that part of the reason that they're not correlated with longevity is because many of the people who have high testosterone levels are taking exogenous testosterone. So they're taking injections or patches. What I've achieved is entirely through non-pharmaceutical methods, through physical techniques and orthomolecular substances, like vitamins, essentially, is what orthomolecular medicine is pretty well a fancy name for high doses of biologically available, key element there, biologically available vitamins. So that's really kind of what Linus Pauling was kind of one that the Nobel Prize winner. Linus Pauling was the one that kind of kicked it off, really, two-time Nobel Prize winner. But the medical establishment thought he went crazy when he said that vitamin C is perhaps some of the best medicine that we could take in high doses. Now, full disclaimer here, might as well get all those disclaimers out. I'm not a doctor, and this is not a biohacking session. I'm going to dive right into SPOCK, but it does, and BROK, but it does relate to. But I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is not financial advice. This is not a solicitation to invest. This is SPOCK is not a security. It is a digital asset, according to the greatly clarified definitions and legal guidelines and directions and interpretations that have been expressly published and promulgated by the CFTC and the SEC from March 17th, and then most recently in April 28th. March 17th being the 10 days prior to the launch of SPOCK. And there was a reason for that. So because I am a banker as well, I own a banker, I'm chairman of a bank and a bank holding company and full service chartered bank, which is another disclaimer, completely separate from my initiatives in crypto and Neobanx, which is my Neobanx software, which is my banking solutions company, which is developing the global agentic banking system for the world with the intent of inverting the banking system, which is now controlled by a cabal 6 people, 18 actually, but 6 permanent members of what I call the high table at the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland, which control all the central banks in the world. Many people aren't aware of that. They're becoming, and they're not even though, and now that BIS is becoming more public with SWIFT, and which is a system for the main system, the rails for international wire transfers, a horrible, slow, inefficient system that is being rejiggered for the crypto digital world that we live in through through new, basically super centralized digital digital currency assets. So so the worst of the worst centralized digital currencies are being promulgated by the BIS now as part of their solution for international money transfer, and they position this as being crypto friendly, and there's a lot of buzz around this, but you've really got to read between the lines when you ever see or read anything about SWIFT or the Bank of International Settlements. What they really are is they have had a global, I have to be careful with the words that I use, so I can't say, because they don't legally control all the central banks of the world, but they direct them, right? They guide them, they provide the guidance, they set the policies. And so actions speak louder more clearly than words in many cases. So when Basel speaks, the global banks of the world, the central banks, including the Federal Reserve Board in the United States, they listen. So be aware of that, and be aware of that Bitcoin and especially, and even Ethereum, Solana, but especially Bitcoin, because it is the most decentralized of any of the crypto class of assets in the world. And this is something I realize that many people don't fully grasp. So I'll recap it for you, since we have people that are listening on LinkedIn as well as the more we've got quite a range of people who are very sophisticated in traditional legacy finance listening, and through the LinkedIn crowd. So these would be other bank owners, C-level executives, and predominantly in banking and payment technology. So that's on the one hand, but many of them have never had a digital wallet. They have opinions on Bitcoin, but they know nothing about Bitcoin. Yeah, I know you're listening, and to my friends and colleagues in banking that are not that haven't even purchased a single crypto in your life. Get with the program. Your customers need you to be knowledgeable about crypto. And how can you be knowledgeable unless you educate yourself? And how can you educate yourself? Or let me put it in a positive way. The best way for you to educate yourself is to participate. So buy some SPOCK, if you will. And this is not investment advice. This is activism advice. This is educational advice. Buy some SPOCK, a small amount, so you can understand get awareness of how wallets work and how crypto works. And read the Satoshi paper. It's 8 pages. Come on, I can't tell you how many times I've stood up in a room of bankers and asked how many people have purchased Bitcoin, which is the baseline, right, of crypto, and incredibly unique. And I'm going to get to why it's so unique and why, and a point that I think I became aware of that many people have forgotten or weren't aware of in the first place. But they haven't so many bankers have not even purchased Bitcoin ever. They've never transacted in Bitcoin ever. They've never had a wallet ever. They don't have an account at Coinbase. That's another easy way. Your money's even FDI, your cash is even FDIC insured if it's on Coinbase. And now there are actual banks like Kraken Bank that have limited use bank charters. So this is, I've been very gentle in my past SPOCK talks to the bankers, but I'm telling you, bankers, wake up, get crypto now for yourself, for your family, and this is not investment advice. This is educational advice. You need to know where your customers are moving their money, because 87% of them, when they move their money from your bank and move it into crypto, it doesn't come back. So you better get with the program on crypto. And I'm not talking about central bank digital currencies. I'm not talking about stablecoin. That's just the basic level and you need to go beyond that and become aware of what comes next, which is Bitcoin. And now, why is Bitcoin so different than any other crypto in the world? It is because, and this is precisely why the central banks are so worried about it, and the central bank of central banks, the BIS, and even though their words say otherwise, their actions tell you, as soon as Bitcoin started becoming more mainstream at the institutional level, while it said the volumes have increased tremendously because the utility can't be denied. And just like an individual, once they get a crypto wallet, there's no going back they will always have a digital wallet after that, and unless they get really burned, and which is less likely to happen now that there's more clarity around the rules, that because of the great foundation set with the Genius Act already passed, now the CFTC and SEC guidance, which are almost more important than the Clarity Act. And so regardless of whether the Clarity Act is passed or not, already that framework has been established, which has been incredibly helpful, and also sets out some guidelines, some lanes in which for digital folks to operate. And that's why I, as a bank owner, felt emboldened to be able to launch my own cryptocurrency, because there is a clearly demarcated lane for digital assets. And that's what SPOCK is. It's a digital asset according to the definitions and that have been laid out by the CFTC and SEC in their interpretive memos of March 17th and April 28th in America. So that was huge for the industry, huge for me. And that was 10 days after that happened, SPOCK was launched. So back to Bitcoin and the resistance this at the central bank level, and many banks are resisting it. I don't think they even know why. The reason that it's not the interest on savings accounts. That was a simple explanation, a simple way for people to understand the division between the crypto parent division between the legacy bank world and the emerging crypto world. It wasn't about interest on savings accounts. It was about control. And so there is here's the key point with truly decentralized finance like Bitcoin. Bitcoin has no specific owner or authority, and that is extraordinary. So the inventor, founder, the mythological hero of the story with Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, whether he's a real person or not, or whether as some organization that was behind it or not, it doesn't matter. There's no owner. It's true. It's truly, and therefore it's truly decentralized. So there's never been any currency like that in the world, and it is the most friendly, self-sovereignty friendly, private property rights friendly. It is you can hold $1 billion, never mind in a digital wallet. You can hold it in the ultimate offline, air gapped, hopefully not too much air gapped, secure vault right here. You could actually memorize your seed phrase, 12 to 24 words. You could memorize those words, and that for your for access to your Bitcoin or crypto assets. And so that's what saved many people. So the use cases have already been proven out. Like in Iran, many of the people that were dependent on fiat and banking, they were out of luck. Even if they had access to bank accounts, the fiat currency was zeroed out basically it became almost, the national currency is worthless at this point. However, their Bitcoin actually went up during that period, and many of them are very well educated, civilized, well educated, smart, savvy population, fantastic people that have been suppressed by an oppressive regime. And so the free people of Iran, especially, they were smart, and many of them had crypto, and so they had their assets, and their assets were completely independent from the crisis that went on in the country. There's no other country there's no fiat currency in the world. So so that's why Venezuela, Costa Rica, they have they have gone to a fully Bitcoin based economy, and that is because it's decentralized. So it's great for non-military powers and for citizens, for people everywhere that want to be free. That is the beauty. And so Bitcoin is the granddaddy, and SPOCK is a built on the shoulders of that infrastructure and that space. Not technically, we're a Solana token. We're not an ordinal. We're not a Bitcoin token, but all crypto owes respect to Bitcoin. And there are going to be some crypto are going to sell out. And if Swift is endorsing a crypto, I'm highly suspicious of any crypto that Swift and the Bank of International Settlements would endorse. So in CBDC is their main goal, like a super CBDC, a super global CBDC. That would be their number one, plan A. But they always have contingency plans. Plan B for them would be a centralized cryptos, so that have a clearly defined ownership structure that can be where they can control the owners, and they can control the token indirectly. That would be their second best bet. So that is what we're dealing with. So anyway, back to so bankers, just a final word on this point: get exposure, get experience, even just for yourself, for your own personal account, and then you'll be the smartest guy in the room. You'll be the smartest. If you're on the board, you'll probably be the smartest guy on the board. If you've read the Satoshi paper and have a SPOCK token as well as Bitcoin. And if you skip Bitcoin even, it goes straight to SPOCK, because SPOCK is designed for banks and bankers, and particularly BROK, which I'll talk more about now, because that was so this Ingram evaluation matrix, a tool was a tool that was designed for high stakes decisions in all spaces. And it's kind of the brains of any AI model, whether it's from Claude to Grok to Chat GPT, whatever your flavor of AI is. My preference is Grok. you can you need actually to Ingram evaluation matrix to break these complicated decisions down to a human level of explainability, which it breaks everything down into 4 immutable categories: strategic fit, feasibility, financial impact, and risk. Any high stakes decision that you'll ever encounter can be broken down into those 4 immutable, universal categories. And there's a lot to be said and that could be written and said about each one of those 4 categories. The default model have 49 subcategories that cover most financial transactions. And this is what I'm building. And now it's going to have to be ready for June 11th. That is fast approaching. That's less than a week away now. So I've got a ton of work to do. But the good news is that we're making really good progress. This is what the default face of BROK will look like, kind of like my alter ego, if you will. And the tools are already, it already is working. I've already got it, but I need to make sure it's ready for the live demos on June 11th. So I'll bring more people in for testing and experimentation, and but it's all coming together. It's going to be ready, so that's exciting. And that is the part. So Ingram evaluation matrix, people could see that's super important. Doesn't require very much convincing. And if you're a banker, you already know that your AI, you want to use it, right? You want your lending decisions to be easier, but they better be darn good. They got to be better than they were. They've got to be explainable. They've got to be auditable. They've got to be compliant with CRA and all the different regulations. So that's what my tool does. That's what the IEM part of this structure does. The IEM takes, so you can take a loan application, feed it into BROK, and with all PII redacted, and in a quantum resilient, using quantum resilient infrastructure, dilithium for quantum secure signatures, which is NIST approved. And so this, for most bankers, this might end up being the most quantum resilient part of their infrastructure. So they'll probably start out with a pilot, and that would be actually potentially the most secure, most future-proof tool that you use and have at your disposal in your bank. So which is intentional. I mean, obviously we want this to be secure, and we have an advantage because we're late to the game. We're here with the latest concepts that are far in advance of were contemplated. Literally, I built my first AI 22 years ago. So I've been working on this for a long time, and always with the idea that this would be a huge impact in the legal profession, in the banking profession, in the health profession, for generals making high stakes decisions related to warfare. All of these high stakes areas where, especially if they're highly regulated or just high stakes because they work, they're auditable, they're explainable. And when you make high stakes decisions, they better be explainable. So that's all the IEM. So banks that would be using this, you'd submit your loan application through BROK. BROK does the analysis, gives you a report back according to the 4, and it also incorporating your internal policies and procedures, and also looking at all of the external landscape of regulations that are applicable, like CRA and the different rules relating to biases, and bankers can't allow any racial bias or of any kind to be in part of their decision-making process and who's approved or declined for a loan. So all of this is done in a way that is more rigorous and explainable and auditable and manageable. So it actually, not only is it faster, but it for bankers, it is going to make it because I think as bankers, we all know that fines are probably and risks are more of a motivator for many bankers than they are for than the opportunity. So the risk management of the risk and compliance for bankers is they are constantly right now, and this is why this is so important, because they are missing out on opportunities, and they would readily miss out on opportunities, and they would rather not make a loan at all than take a risk that will not only obviously they want the loan to get repaid, but also there's the risk of non-compliance. So that is exceedingly important. So the room in Solana in San Francisco, they were less aware of that than bankers would be, but I think you get it, right? I think everyone can understand that. It's probably easy. Put yourself in the banker's shoes from that mindset and understand how that may be one of the most important things that BROK does for a banker. Takes all this information, makes it explainable so they can say why they made the decision, and they can also interrogate this decision. So it's not a black box decision that's yes or no, and I don't know why, right? It's explainable. That also means you can go in and maybe something was missed. Maybe there's a date, maybe miskeyed some data. Maybe there was a regulatory change that was made that was favorable or unfavorable that you weren't aware of. I mean, heck, you've got 165,000 pages of regulations to be aware of if you're a banker in America. So that's easy for AI. That it's almost impossible for a human. Certainly for small banks, and large banks have whole departments dedicated to this. So think about that, right? This is why I'm saying to all the community bankers out there and the credit unions, this is your opportunity to level up and compete against the big banks, which are going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars and months to digest AI where it is right now. By the time that they've done that, a small, nimble community bank with a more tech-savvy board or ownership can adopt these new, kind of be staying ahead of the curve and and literally it's a David and Goliath situation where small banks can use this. And there's other domains, but I'm just talking about the bankers today because that's my LinkedIn audience is mainly bankers and banking professionals and compliance professionals, and compliance professionals talk to me as well. I have been a compliance officer. I know the challenges, and we all know that AI is necessary. We all regulators. I saw a friend of mine, former coworker, Brandy Reynolds, put out an article suggesting that the FDIC is actually expecting banks. This is kind of unusual. FDIC didn't really expect banks to, okay, go out and we expect you to have, crypto deposit taking capability. They may allow that, but it's not something that they're pushing. That's for sure. And they want to see, and the administration has been pushing adoption, but then it still has to be done to meet FDIC expectations and regulator expectations. And I'm not a lawyer, disclaimer, so always consult your internal counsel, and bankers do that as well. But you all understand. But with artificial intelligence, it's almost the Randy Reynolds article suggests that regulators are expecting. It would be maybe in the future a defect if you don't have. This may be going beyond her point, but it may in the future it may be considered a defect if you do not have and utilize artificial intelligence. But if you use artificial intelligence, you better make sure that at a minimum it's explainable. And my model has been socialized with many different levels in banking and even among bank regulators. Not saying it's approved. There is very few frameworks that are approved. So I won't, not have to be very careful not to say that you need to bankers out there, always check with your internal counsel and with your compliance officer, and you're getting out ahead. I think you just need to have good policies in place at this point. There's no one model that's I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to getting too deep into the compliance and regulatory side of things. Suffice to say, it's very important to bankers, something that a lot of any competitors that are entering the field are trying to enter the field, and there are many trying to provide banking solutions, and they are missing the mark. I haven't seen anybody that's even close because they make all kinds of wrong assumptions about what bankers want and what bankers need and where they want the data stored. For example, they data for Q day, data migration is going to be likely have to be involve migrating data out of internal repositories into military grade quantum resilient data centers. So that's the kind of thing that bankers and I've seen whole well-funded companies building their business model on the premise that bankers are going to want to have their AI solutions in-house. You're not thinking about Q Day, are you? So there are many false assumptions. It's almost the compliance and regulatory side of things is more important than the technology side to bankers. So that's enough. I'm going to say that was, So I could clearly tell that nobody that I'm aware of in the crypto industry and even in the AI industry really gets this. So we're way ahead just with the Ingram evaluation matrix. And I haven't even talked about the Neoscore yet, because the Neoscore is an alternative credit score that I have an issued patent for, and I've now extended to include scoring not only for humans, but for machines as well, which becomes incredibly important as we move to an agentic economy, if you believe that to be the case, as I do. So as transactions are being done by machines, just like machines are representatives of people, and usually, and unless they're totally rogue, so if you have a malign individual behind the AI, then you're amplifying the malign intentions of that and sophistication of the bad actor behind that AI. So that needs to be, that's not as much discussion about that yet as there will be, and we're ahead of that. That's what Neoscore does. So Ingram Evaluation Matrix will use the Neoscore, and it can use all the other data that a banker uses today and it might use in the future. All of that data can be plugged in and deciphered and explained through the lens of the Ingram Evaluation Matrix. The Neoscore solves a number of problems for consumers, even maybe more so than bankers, because bankers expect that you have it. Now, expect that you have a credit score, right? Otherwise, you're a thin file, no file, very difficult to get credit. So people, new grads that are just entering their career, new homeowner, people trying to purchase their first home. These things are all very difficult to accomplish without a credit score. And so that's one use case for Neoscore, our patented scoring system for machines and for humans that looks at interactions and social graphs for machines and humans to determine character and trustworthiness and malign versus benign intent. and as well as the other things. But this is a new facet, a new angle that traditional credit scores only miss entirely, or just capture like some of the outer echoes of a person's character that are possibly reflected in their credit score. But that's not what a credit score is. There's 5 C's in credit, fundamentals, according to the best lenders in the world, in the top banks and top underwriters in the world. I was trained at one, BMO, one of the oldest banks in the world, with to this day, they follow the 5 C's, even though the number 1 C has been left out of the equation for a long time, and is left out of, really, it's touched on, but there's no way to measure it. There has been no way to measure it until the Neoscore came along. So this is actually the most important facet that, then again, in the room in Solana, people didn't really get this. They think, well, one guy actually said, well, there's ample credit access in the world. Everybody has access to credit. And you could say that the same thing. Everybody with prior to the invention of the iPod, everybody has access to music. Hey, they can sing if they want to. They can gather around the campfire. We don't need any electronics. You can sing anytime you want to, right? And then you had various CD, compact disc devices and cassette devices that provided portable music, and radio before that. Nobody knew they needed, because they didn't know that it was possible to have 1,000 songs in your pocket on a hard drive that wouldn't skip when you jogged. So that was the invention of the iPod, of course, by Steve Jobs, who famously was always ahead of what customers thought they needed, right? So there's a big differentiation between what customers need and what they think they need, or what they want and what they think they want. So if Ford, there's a famous quote from Ford, the inventor of the automobile, that if he asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? Because they didn't imagine that such a thing as an automobile would ever be possible, right? So it's the same thing in our banking system at this point. People and bankers don't know, and consumers don't know, that there is a incredibly vastly improved way to measure risk, and this is called the Neoscore, and it will allow people that have thin files to suddenly have a file. People that have no files, legal immigrants that come from other countries that have great credit scores in their country right now, they come to America, and their score is 0. They can't. They could have a perfect credit score in the UK, in London. I always give the example, and because it's based on a real story, and come to the financial center in New York City, and these are a financial professional even can't get. Has to get a prepaid cell phone because they can't get a phone on credit. They can't get a plan. They have to buy their minutes prepaid. They have to buy their phone prepaid because they have 0 credit history. How insane is that? And even though the global legacy agencies have operate in multi jurisdictions, you can't call a rep in the UK. You can't even call anybody usually in the UK and say, hey, TransUnion, hey, Equifax, I want you to share my file with New York because I'm moving to New York and I don't want to start from 0. Share all my data. You can't do it. It's your data. So, and that's what with Neoscore, you own your data. So this is a huge innovation on its own right. This is a massive project, 600. This is a industry vertical in its entirety. That's just one spoke of SPOCK means spoke, by the way. This is just one spoke in the whole plan that is Neobank's plan, which SPOCK is at the center of. So you see how this is a long-term game here. This is a long-term plan with a lot of fast-moving milestones. So you get those bumps, that you expect the meme coin economy, or if you call it an economy, the meme coin space is dominated by flash in the pan, all sizzle, no steak projects that are vaporized in an hour or in a day and go to zero. Clearly, that's not the case here. We are now into past 2 months and going strong, and not even really started yet. I launched very quickly, even before BROK was ready, because I needed to get the patents in line. But I wanted to get this project started as soon as soon as the laws made it a very viable, because the economics and the technology and everything has made sense for a very long time. I've always said for a long time, if you go back and look at my writing, or people remember this conversation with me, 10 years ago even, and it's been, I said, it's not a technology problem. It's there were two things that needed to be solved for Bitcoin. I used to say the speed of the transaction and the regulatory certainty. Well, the speed of the transaction is no longer an issue, because you've got projects like Spock based on Solana, which are value exchange can happen instantaneously. You don't need to wait 15 minutes for a Bitcoin blocked process, and it's fine. That's not a knock on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is intended for national, or it's now evolved. Maybe it wasn't intended, but it's evolved into a mechanism for large value transactions between institutions, especially, or whales, and really large transactions. I think this is going to be like moving the digital equivalent of moving a pallet of cash, right? But obviously, or gold even, right? How much more efficient is it with Bitcoin? It's almost in its native form suitable for daily transactions, but not for your groceries, whatever. But now you've got Litecoin and you've got the Lightning Network that is faster than Visa or MasterCard. It is faster than Visa or MasterCard for micro transactions or small transactions for buying your groceries. It's perfect for that already today. So that issue is taken care of. And the regulatory side of things is pretty well done and never been better, that's for sure. And is fine for now. Could be better. The Clarity Act will make it even better, but it is the best it's ever been. So now the battle is shifted to it's gone far beyond. I don't think that the central banks ever thought it would get this far, and there's been so many efforts. Like if we didn't have the administration that we have in power today, we wouldn't have the opportunity that we have, right? And Bitcoin and decentralized finance might have been cut off at the knees. And the greatest risk to the industry now at this point, I would say, is even more. I don't think that the central banks are going to be able to. They're too late. The horse has left the barn, as they say, and they're desperately trying to put lipstick on the CBDC pig and sell it to the world through half truths and propaganda. I don't think that's going to work now. But the greatest risk now is for a new administration that rolls back executive orders and that type of thing. So if you believe in crypto, if you believe in self-sovereignty, in private property, it behooves you to get a little bit political about it, because rights, self-sovereignty is, when you get down to it, a political question. And that is, so I won't dodge that. That is a fact, and I believe in it. I believe in self-sovereignty. I believe in privacy of the individual. I believe in security, and I believe in innovation. I believe in community. And with you combine those things, you've got the basis for a new global agentic banking system that will invert the order as it is right now. And all the small banks of the world are kind of in the middle. They can be follow the dinosaurs, or they can level up and use the technology that's available to them. And you don't, and there's, it's a spectrum. It's not a black or white choice. You can, you at the very least, whatever side you fall on, and even if you hate Bitcoin and crypto, you need to be educated. So go ahead and buy SPOCK and hate on it. That's for your benefit of your customers, and for, because everybody in today's world needs a bank or a bank, and there's 20 million people in America that don't even have a bank account, and that can be addressed through this as well. And banks can use this technology to safely bank those folks, or new folk, or new systems will bank it, and that's bank them. And that's where I got my start with fintechs. Before I bought a bank, I was, I'd onboarded 10 million plus accounts through mobile banking wallets, or the equivalent of a mobile banking wallet with a debit card or prepaid card or a virtual card as the transaction mechanism. Because there's only 4 elements to banking, really. When you boil it down, it's been the same for 1,000 years: transacting, borrowing, lending, and trust. Those are the 4 elements of banking. And whether it's digital, whether it's seashells, or whether it's banknotes or fiat currency, whatever the currency is, that's just the transaction layer. And borrowing and lending is currency agnostic. It's just it's very simple. The economic side of borrowing and lending is very simple. It's just the regulations. Take a mortgage document. That's one of the things that we want to fix. So let's actually segue into that. So we've got SPOCK is the token that enables and powers use of the Neoscore, use of the Ingram evaluation matrix, all through the very simple literal face interface of BROK, which stands for Bankers Revolutionary Operations Keiretsu, where we cooperate in community, bankers with bankers, citizens with citizens, all in service and pursuit of freedom and private property rights. And I think that banking should be an inalienable right as well. Frankly, it's not. And it should be, I believe. And everyone has the right to transact, borrow, lend, and people have a right to refuse borrowing and lending. And there needs to, and trust is the factor that determines what the pricing is and who lends to whom. So there you have it. So all of these technologies work on SPOCK. And SPOCK also is designed as a machine first token. So it is ready and provides utility already for machines to interact with machines, with or without humans. So the human model is where you start, just like self-driving cars and AI in the automobile industry. You start with parking, a simple, simplest, safest part, low speed transaction, if you will, with parking a car. That's where AI started, assisted parking. parking assist with AI. And then all the steps that eventually get you to the freeway. So the way this works with SPOCK is BROK. You can provision a wallet for BROK, or BROK will help you set up wallets too, because the onboarding process right now, it's one of the reasons that more people haven't migrated from banks yet, is that from traditional banks that are not crypto friendly to crypto, is the horrible onboarding experience of getting wallets, and funding wallets. So BROK will assist with that, and huge opportunity. I'm talking to Exodus for improving the onboarding experience, and Exodus definitely needs to have SPOCK. Exodus is on the cap table of my bank, so we really, I've got continuing conversations to separately from the bank to look at how we can better work together to make BROK better, and to provide the ultimate agentic banking experience for in a digital native environment, using the Interstellar Bank SPV, which is also part of the map. I should, you can. I have the map basically that shows the how the wheel works, right? With BROK in the middle, Ingram evaluation matrix, Neoscore, other verticals, and the Interstellar Bank, which puts it all together and moves the compliance and regulatory side of things into a different space, literally. That, I'm not looking at opening ever another bank branch or another traditional legacy bank. But the Interstellar system, it's a system, is something that is quite revolutionary. And for our partners and for our customers right now, you get on board now before we do the have partnership announcements and things like that happening, and before we start professional marketing. Everything to this point is word of mouth has gotten us this far, really, and little live streams like this that where I share my authentic thoughts openly with the world. So you can't get much more transparent than that. But I think that that's intentional. I think that is the future of all corporate leadership as we move to a trust-based economy. So just as in cornerstone of banking is trust, the cornerstone of economics and business is more than ever going to be trust. And I always hate it when people say nothing personal or it's just business. Business is extremely personal to me, and it is extremely important. And banking is kind of the core of business, and banking is core to civilization. And it's what allows invention and innovation to happen. It's what made America so great, was because these inventors could find financing, and it wasn't through tradition. It wasn't through through venture capital. That didn't even exist in its current form. Banks actually did a lot more aggressive lending, and there's no reason that in a new regulatory environment that the pendulum may have swung too far towards over-regulation and restrictiveness. And there may be it may be time, and I think it is time, and I think that it's happening. It's unstoppable that with crypto and artificial intelligence and the current political environment, that and that's why the central powers are fighting so hard. in the midst of a big battle right now, and it's amazing that that Bitcoin is holding its value as well as it is. Oh, and one other thing, just from my perspective as a futurist, the the energy requirements of the world, a solution exists for that, and the solution provider, the company that solves that problem, is heir to the biggest company that the world has ever seen, and that's not something that's off in the future. That's happening right now with TerraFab, with Musk's project, and the very first one to write about it, as far as I know, on December 7th. If you look back in my Substack or my even on X, I published it as well. On December 7th, I wrote an article about how compute would move into space and how SpaceX should lead that, because that will more than supply all the world's, even if they're overestimated, all the world's energy supply needs for all artificial intelligence, for all Bitcoin mining, for all banking transactions of any kind, for all crypto, will be exceeded by the movement of compute into space powered by the sun. So you have the solar panels on the hot side, you have the processors on the cold side, and it is, all the math has been done. Yes, it's expensive to move the mass into space. Never been cheaper, and the starships have gotten larger, and the math works. And the technology works. And so, mark my words, I've already, there's some naysayers out there that doubt whether this is going to happen or can happen. This is what is driving the biggest IPO in world history right now. And so, how does that relate to crypto and SPOC and Bitcoin? That's part of the reason, actually. It's a good thing in this case, because the capital to flow into this biggest IPO in world history for the biggest energy mega project in world history takes capital, and that capital has to come from somewhere. And where's the liquidity? Not a lot of folks are talking about this because they don't want, when you're buying into an asset, you don't want to, it's funny, this is part of the reason that buy the rumor, sell the news is a truism, an axiom in markets that trade, stock markets, crypto markets, markets in general. I used to be an advisor at Merrill Lynch and a broker, and also trading systems and futures and all and models for that using early AI. And so people, large buyers, they like to keep their, like whales, they don't telegraph what they're where they're putting it, because they don't want to drive the price up before they have all of their capital assembled to buy what they want to buy, right? They have to do it within the law, but still they'll find a way to, if they're making an investment big and bet, and with the biggest IPO, the biggest, most strategic, massive enterprise that's ever in the energy sector, that also connects to artificial intelligence and banking and interplanetary travel and telecommunications and all of these things that Musk is at the center of. You combine all of that into one massive IPO. That is what's so. Bitcoin is kind of a victim of its own success. It's liquid. It's easy to sell. So I think even Michael Saylor, well, I know he had to sell a little bit, and he said he would rather give a liver, or give it, not his liver, his kidney. He would give a kidney before he would sell Bitcoin. So here he is. He's seems to have backtracked on that a little bit, but I think he probably wants to put money into, because Bitcoin does need energy. And I think he's as much a maximist as ever, and recognizes that we were starting to run into real concerns about energy supply. This is the solution. This is the ultimate solution. And not only is it sustainable, but as space freight costs decrease, and then technology improves, the processors and the compute and everything, and the first generation of compute in space will probably have more failures than the next generation. And so the costs in space to move the material into space, and to process in space, and to compute in space, all of these things are going to diminish. So and Musk is going to control that. I mean, every billionaire in the world wants a piece of that, and everyone's going to have a piece of that. And I see some people complaining, it's like, oh well, our money is going to be used whether we like it or not. And that's true too, because index funds, because this IPO is so big, is going to be part of the index, and index funds have to invest all the money they receive into all of the index funds. So TerraFab be an index fund, will be an index stock. It'll be in the index, and so automatically cash flows are going to happen from there, and then billionaires are going to want to stack on top of that. So anyway, that's a huge drain, a liquidity drain for the biggest, most liquid class of crypto, which is Bitcoin. So that's a temporary type situation that is pointing to and what do you do when you have a temporary dip? You buy, right? That is what, that is not investor advice. That is common sense. That's my futurist hat on, and that is my perspective as a banker. Whatever, those are all the disclaimers there. It's just common sense, right? You buy the dips, and so I would say this is. And there's also another reason to buy, and that is the ethical aspect to this. And it feels good to me anyway. And your ethics are your own, right? And profit is fine. If you're going into spot purely for profit, if you're going into, if you do business based purely on profit, that's fine, totally fine. And for me, I feel really good about putting my money, my time, my energy into things that make the world better, that make me better as an individual, that make the community better, that make the nation better, that make the world better. That's I believe I definitely am an agent of negentropy versus entropy. Entropy is decay. So you can see that in my biohacking and reversing biological aging, and in my interest in science and in innovation and creation, in all that I do, in creating beauty, and in prosperity, right, and long life. So it's so beautifully summed up, and I'll sum it up there. I've gone 8 minutes over. We're at a very exciting juncture. So money has left the crypto markets temporarily for a good cause, to build the infrastructure that will be the infrastructure for Interstellar Bank, for SPOCK projects in the future, maybe more so than any other crypto, and for Bitcoin as well, in terms of the massive energy requirements that are truly needed for mining Bitcoin, which we can explain for newbies in another segment. And I like really questions from everybody, whatever platform you're listening from. Just throw a question in the comments, And I sometimes I've done whole talks based on a couple of questions. So in your questions and comments, if there's things that you'd like me to dive deeper into, basics that you want me to cover about crypto in general, about any particular crypto, of course, about SPOCK is the focus, and BROK. But please engage with comments and share this, and hold SPOCK. Oh, I'm also changing the Sharing is Caring program. I'll put this, because I'm over 10 minutes now. I'll put this in a note, but the Sharing Caring program is continuing, but it's going to be 2 segments. So you'll get if you get a wallet, send me proof that you purchased my book, which has the Neobank, Navigating the Future of Banking, that book. Or if you are a paid subscriber on Substack, either one of those 2 things, send me a receipt to info@Neobanx, neobanx.com, and I will send you some SPOCK tokens, a small bag, and a smaller amount now than it used to be. And this offer may end at any time. But what I'm going to try out for now is that if you buy a small bag now, take a screenshot and save that. And then if you've still hold or have increased your position in 60 days, I will send you additional SPOCK, even larger than the first amount that you received. Okay, so this is to encourage holding, and so that people to hold long enough to learn what you're, because I did see a few people sell who didn't have any idea what they were selling when I did the Sharing is Caring program. So this time I want to see that people buy, they hold it, get educated on it, and read my book, read Substack, read the light paper, which is on Neobanx site, neobanx.com, and start from an educated position. You can ape as well, of course, but and you'll be rewarded for that too. So show me that you've bought. So for clarity again, so you'll get a small bonus with proof of a Neobanx book purchase or a paid Substack subscription. Send the receipt to info@neobanx.com, and your wallet, your public key for your wallet, which is like a Venmo account. So you're not revealing anything that is putting you at risk. Just you can share that, and then you will get. I will send you some. We will send you some SPOCK and tokens, and you can watch those grow. And 60 days after, if you still hold or have added to your position, you will get more. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Live long and prosper, everyone. And the next may actually be Saturday, so I may have to skip this week because I need to get. This demo on the 11th has to be stellar, and we will make it so. And we're in good shape. But the event itself is when I have the regularly scheduled SPOCK Talk. And so I think the next SPOCK Talk is actually going to be here, same time, same place, Saturday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, wherever you are in the world, same time as today, next week. Okay. So live long and prosper, my friends, and talk to you soon.